Hi, and welcome to Business Analysis Live. My name is Susan. It is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022.
And my name is Scott Bennett. I'm the manager of business analysis here at IIBA. And today we're going to talk about how to become a business analysis professional. For those of you that might not be familiar with the acronym IIBA, we are the International Institute of Business Analysis. We're a global nonprofit organization dedicated to helping those in the profession of business analysis. So Susan, we've had a number of questions on our last live stream at the end of December when we were wrapping up the year about how to become a business analysis professional. And you and I have chatted about this. There's a couple of ways we can get into it, either from having experience, not having experience. So we've got a few things to chat about today.
We do. We've recently talked to a lot of our members, and heck, we talk to members and non-members even through this channel. And really, there's a couple of themes that we hear. There's somebody who's just out of college and they want to get into this, or they're a professional doing something else and they want to get into this. So there's a lot of different angles for this question. So
Yes.
hopefully we'll tackle some that'll be of importance to our audience, but also, audience, remember, you can post your questions here and we'll try to get them answered today.
When we look at building a skill, I like to use an equation. That is, if you take knowledge and you add experience to it, it equals a skill. So when we look at how do you become a business analysis professional, we need to look at the knowledge. So knowledge is something that you need to gain. The experience you don't have yet. So let's talk about the knowledge and focus there. In the world of business analysis, we're essentially communicators between business people and business language and understanding how business works. And on the other hand, the solution. Now, the solution could be technology, or it could be process. It doesn't necessarily have to be technology. And so if you look at those two things as knowledge, people typically come in from either of those. So those would be people that are looking at this as a second career or a third career. And I did a poll on LinkedIn and found that over 50% of the people that are doing business analysis actually came in from other professions. And that's your case, isn't it, Susan?
It is. I did a couple of different passes at jobs when I first got started. And really, the way that I transitioned in is I was working as a technical writer and a technical training trainer in a bank. And happened to get assigned to a technology project, and that's where I first learned about this role. And I think that's pretty common. A lot of
Yeah.
companies, when they do those kinds of technology projects or process projects, will pull forward people from the business because of that domain experience, that subject matter expertise with whatever that is. And that's a great way to transition into that role of business analyst.
Yeah, I've worked with a number of people that have been accountants, professional accountants, and have come into the business analysis space because they do have that deep, rich knowledge that anyone in the technology space doesn't understand. So they have the ability to speak these two different languages. They might, in our case, be both English, but they're different, I guess, versions of what they're talking about. So the technology people might not understand what postings are and reconciliation, all that type of stuff. And the business people might not understand the various aspects of technology. But as a business analysis professional, that's what we do, is we bridge that gap. I started my career in IT. So I went through business school. I majored in information systems. I got hired for doing FoxPro programming back in the 90s. I then became a certified Lotus Notes professional. So I'm really dating myself there.
Whoa.
But then one day, I decided I didn't like my job anymore and I couldn't find out why. And I was working for a large bank in Canada. And fortunately, they had strong HR resources. And they walked me through a Myers-Briggs analysis. So Myers-Briggs testing, you end up with a personality type. And one thing I learned was I love to learn. And if I'm not learning, I'm not happy. And that's what happened to me. Was I was learning how to be a certified professional, but once I got there, there was nothing else to learn and I wasn't happy anymore. And that's one thing that, as a manager of business analysis, I'm now managing my third team. I find that every one of my team members naturally loves to learn. So if you've got that personality type where you're curious, you like to learn, you like to ask questions, it might be a really good fit for a business analysis role. Another thing I want to share too is, so we've talked about coming in from a business side, we've talked about coming in from a technology side, but what if you're coming out of school and you want to be a business analysis professional? Thoughts on that, Susan?
We get that question a lot, and there's really two pieces of this. So I think one is the person that has finished up a computer science degree and is not quite sure they want to get into programming. They think maybe business analysis is a good first step. There's a couple of ways that I think you can do that. First, you can get you can get connected with IIBA, right? Because I think sometimes what can help is to find a community of people that do what you do.
Mhm.
Building that network can help you to find opportunities to get into this or to learn, where those opportunities might exist. Um, Being part of a chapter, I think, is also a great part of that. And, when you're part of IIBA, you automatically get to be part of a chapter.
Okay, I'm
Um,
going to pause you there for a minute. So Susan, you're really familiar with what an IIB chapter is. Let's share with the audience a little bit more about that.
so an IIBA chapter is a geographically based group of our members. We've got 120, almost 120 all over the world. And what they do is they advocate and support the business analysis professionals in their community. And sometimes they are also connected in with companies, with academic institutions. And they do a lot of not just networking events, but also a lot of learning events. So if you are somebody that is just coming out of school and you're interested in knowing people, chapters are a good way to do that because there's always something going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are the other ways? I went to school to be a film director. So, my path to getting here was really a little odd. But so what are some of the ways that you've heard of when students transition into that first business analysis job?
Well, I've actually had a couple of different co-op students from different universities. In my previous role, I had a team of 7 people, and there was the opportunity to bring co-op students in. So I had someone from the University of Waterloo in for 3 months. I had someone from the University of Toronto in for 3 months. And it was an opportunity for them to see what the role is while they're still going through school. So that idea of being an intern was a good opportunity for them to see what it's practically like, not just theory, and B, see if it's a fit for them. In both cases, the 2 interns really enjoyed the role. One of them ended up becoming a business analysis professional. The other one decided that finance was a more interesting route for them, because they liked the numbers, the details, the what if scenarios. So it was more about working with the number side versus the analysis between, we've got a need and how do we solve that need with a solution.
Yeah, internships. I know at some of the last couple of insurance companies I was with, they were more focused on getting business analysts, like young business analysts, started in internship roles. So that's another great way. If you are, if it's the summer or if you're just about to graduate, looking at different companies and seeing if they've got internship or even apprenticeship programs. I've heard of some of those in the UK. I don't know a whole lot about those, but I think it's kind of the same concept. But you're building into that skill. I want to go back to something that you said, because you talked about some of the soft skills that I think make really good BA professionals. Love of learning is definitely high. So if you like to learn, if you are comfortable with being in uncomfortable situations where you don't know something, you might be a good business analysis professional. I think tenacity and curiosity are too as well, because we do walk into a lot of situations where the problem to solve or how we might solve it aren't known. So you've really got to be able to explore and be comfortable with that.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I know another question that I've gotten from professionals that are transitioning in is that thought that I do have to be a computer science major. And this goes for the students too. So if you went to school to do graphic art or you were a music teacher, like I've talked to a lot of different members, I think there's lots of transferable skills that you build and lots of transferable knowledge that you build in those that you can take into that that business analysis role with you.
Yeah.
So don't think that you've got to be a computer science major.
Yeah,
Not at all.
I think besides the curiosity, another key aspect of it is you need to be a really good communicator. Um, a lot of business analysts that I've met are introverts, and I am actually an introvert. I've learned to work in an extroverted world. So even if you're shy and a little hesitant there, if you're able to articulate something clearly, that's really a foundational skill in business analysis. And that's really what organizations need. You've got people that are heads down, they're experts on working on what they're working on, but they don't necessarily understand how to communicate it so they can deliver or fill a gap or find a solution. So that's really what the expertise is. So a lot of soft skills in what we do. Um, as you get more experience in your career, obviously it's getting into facilitation skills, public speaking skills. I've heard people, I've gone through Toastmasters. I know a number of other people have, that can also contribute to success in the career.
Some of our chapters also do some Toastmasters, and they do some other things, some practical hands-on exercises.
Hmm.
So if it's, something that you want to get into, if you want to learn how to do user stories, for example, but you've never done user stories, some of our chapters actually offer those hands-on experiences, and that can be another way for you to build in that experience. So if an internship isn't possible, or if it's not possible to get assigned to a project in your company, look to the chapters, because many times they will have those opportunities for you to kind of build a portfolio of these things that you've done in a safe space with lots of feedback from others who have done it. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to go to the questions. I see that we've got a couple. All right, so first one here, how does a BA and a product manager best collaborate? Is that different from the best ways to collaborate with a project or portfolio manager? Okay, so BA and a product manager collaborating. Um, I'll give you my experience real quickly. So typically when there's a product manager involved, the product manager is helping to um, identify the features, they understand the stakeholders and the audience, and that business analyst in that relationship is the one that is helping to solution. So you may work more exclusively with that product manager initially, but then the product manager may be your partner as you are starting to dive into the how are we going to make that feature work. How about
Yeah,
your
and when I
experience?
hear that, back in the early 2000s, I was a what we call an application manager. So it was a CRM system for commercial banking. And I was responsible for working with the various business people, laying out a roadmap, working with the vendor, working with our internal IT resources. I think that's probably what we call product owner today.
Mhm.
So to me, what I'm hearing is sort of an evolution of things where if you're playing that communicator role and you've got some ownership, some empowerment to steer the direction of the product owner is typically the term we're seeing there. Um, but it does really depend on the size of the organization. So if you're working in a small organization, it's basically you're doing a whole bunch of different stuff. If you're working for a large enterprise, it's more typical that you would silo those different roles into something more specific. So context around that person and what organization they're working in would be helpful as well, to answer that more clearly. But there isn't a black and white answer on this one. It
Yeah,
really is
it's
depends on the organization, depends, I think, on the work culture as well. The work culture we see in North America might be different than Europe, might be different than Asia. So there are different ways that people work in that space.
and to finish up that thought, I think it's also just dependent upon your personal relationships with those folks.
Yeah.
I've worked, so to transition to the second part of that question, which is how is working with a product manager different with a project manager? So first, I think of the BA and product managers or product owners as being product focused. So we're building the solution. But when I'm working with a project manager, that person is project focused. So they are thinking big picture, how are we going to get all of this stuff done? When, how much does it cost? What other people do I need to do? And
Yeah.
that I find is a really there's really some nuance to that relationship, because depending upon how they want to work with you, you may be connected at the hip, as they say. So you may work along with them. Again, they're going to be more project facing, you'll be more product facing, but really the relationship that you're going to have is to share information so that you can help them plan ahead, and they can help you with delivering what you need to on time.
Yeah, yeah. I see another question here. Can you please cover the life cycle and career of a BA? Say, for example, junior to senior. So that's a good question. A junior business analyst is likely working a lot with gathering requirements, documenting requirements, making sure the solution is meeting the need. That's really the nuts and bolts of the role. As you get more senior and looking at promoting people, there's a key differentiator that I see and use when I look at promoting someone, and that is their ability to work in ambiguous spaces. So I can provide clear direction. Here's the box. Here's the project. Go ahead and do it. Most BAs can do that. If I hand something over to someone and say, this executive has this problem and they like a solution, we need to source a solution, we need to figure out what's the best fit, what the budget is, all that type of stuff. That is a senior BA. So a senior BA has gone through enough projects to understand how these things work. They probably have a few battle scars of things they've done wrong over the years, and they know things that might trip them up. They've got enough knowledge to know how to plan things out, but they can dive into an ambiguous space and they can create clarity, and they can get alignment of stakeholders to then start working on initiatives. So the career life cycle would be junior, intermediate, senior. One thing that many people do, and I'll say this not just from an IIBA perspective, but as a professional, certification is something that can help you in two ways. One is it's an external validation that you know what you're talking about, and you've got that skill. But the second thing is, and it was a surprise to me when I went through certification back in 2010, I actually learned stuff that I had never been exposed to. So I'd worked in a large organization, a large bank, and I thought, hey, I really know my stuff. I've been working in the space for 10 years, but there were things I still learned that were useful. Something like requirements traceability. I was leading a project with 5 other BAs, and I needed that right then at that time. It was perfect. So it's not just that external validation. You're also likely going to learn something by going through the process. So CBAP certification is what people typically aspire to. That's the gold standard for us. But there is also an entry certificate to business analysis that as a new BA, you can demonstrate you have the knowledge. You don't have the skill or experience, but you have the knowledge of business analysis. And so you can demonstrate to an employer, hey, you know what? I've studied this, I understand it, and I know the global standard of the body of knowledge for business analysis.
I'll add to that life cycle uh, question that I've seen as you grow into senior, and then whether it's principal or whatever the top rung of that career ladder is, you get into more of a consultative role as well. So it ceases to be about I just go and I put together requirements documentation. It's more about collaborating, asking questions, helping to solve the harder problems. And
Yeah.
typically that consultative role, you get to a certain level in that career life cycle, and you might have to make a choice about, do I want to continue to be an individual contributor, or do I want to go the role of leadership or management? I think that's very typical in most of the BA job families that I've seen. So that's something to think about as you are thinking about moving up. Which path do I want to go, so that I can make sure that I build those skills? Because if you want to go into management, you should really focus on getting some leaders, just people leadership skills that are separate from doing business analysis work.
Yeah.
So that's a great question. All right. Woo, we got lots of questions today. See, that we knew this was going to be a big topic. All right, I'm going to back up a little bit, because we've got some questions for people that have some experience and some degrees. So the first one I see here is, I have a bachelor's in engineering and an MBA with experience in automotive research and development and business development. Do I qualify to pursue business analysis and IIBA certifications? Well, I am certain that you would make an awesome business analyst professional. And it's you may not just go for that BA role. I mean, there's lots of specializations within this within business analysis. Certainly with an MBA, you understand how businesses work, and that can be a real differentiator if you wanted to get in. On the IIBA certifications front, I think to Scott's point, it's a little bit about, some of our core certifications do have a work experience component, but we have some of our specializations which don't have that work component. I'll let you add on to that.
Yeah, so the entry certificate to business analysis is basically knowledge, not experience. The next one that moves up from that is a CCBA. And then the CBAP is the one that's most experienced. I think you're looking at 5 to 7 years of experience you need for that. So transitioning from one career path into business analysis, getting the CBAP certification is likely unrealistic because you don't have the experience and you have to document that and provide references. But some of like the ECBA, for example, would be a great place to start because you're going from an area that you really understand the business of the engineering into a space where you need to understand, how does all this stuff work? How do I get information out of people? How do I document that? How do I get the stakeholders to agree, yes, this is what you're looking for? How do I make sure that what's delivered actually is what people asked for and it's working properly? So there's a new knowledge area that you need. So if you're looking for a certification and getting into the career, the entry certificate to business analysis is the right certification for you.
Yeah, exactly. Along those same lines, so we've got someone here with a healthcare background studying business analysis. And the question is the career scope in business analysis for someone who has a healthcare background. And can a BA move into management consulting later? I have worked around folks that have been both medical professionals or who worked in healthcare insurance on the business side, and came with that knowledge and made excellent business analysis professionals. And I think the reason is because those roles have a lot of critical thinking, a lot of curiosity, a lot of ambiguity that you've got to be comfortable with in order to flesh that out. So I think yes. And can you move into a management consultant role? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've known many people who have moved from a BA role into doing consulting in those. Again, that BA skill set, I think, it's very transferable, whatever role you choose to be in. I think a lot of those knowledge areas, how you identify stakeholders and plan out the work that you're going to do, and do that analysis. I think you use those. You can even use those in your personal life, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, from a healthcare perspective, I think about, well, I'm assuming it's a hospital. I could be wrong there, but every hospital has a finance department. They have an HR department. Those departments have technology systems. They have processes. In terms of medical equipment, whether it's sourcing medical equipment or servicing that stuff, there are needs there as well. So I think business analysis is a very fungible skill set in that you're essentially doing a generic role where you understand what a need is and you can work with people and talk about the solution. That's generically what we're talking about. So whether it's healthcare or it's engineering, manufacturing, these are skills that are used in all these areas. And if I sort of step back into the history of business analysis, if we look back, I'm not sure what the time frame was on this, so I can't quote it, but years and years ago, project managers became people in organizations that got work done, that understood how to plan it, how to bring people together, how to execute it. At some point along the maturity of professional project management, they realized there's still something missing here. What is that thing? Well, it turned out to be business analysis, because people were saying, this is what my needs are. And these people were saying, okay, well, I can satisfy that need. And they would deliver it. And they said, well, that wasn't what I asked for. And what was the disconnect? It was someone in the middle that can talk both sides of the coin. And that's really where business analysis evolved from, was making sure that what is needed is understood and clearly articulated to the solution provider so that when they get it back, it works.
Exactly. And I think that kind of speaks to that relationship with the project manager, because they are really so project focused on delivering that project. They may not be able to, or have the skill set to be able to do that business analysis of, okay, now how do I need to do this? I mean, I know I've been in both roles, tried to play both roles together. It's hard to go from a planning mindset into an action mindset like that. So, and I think if you get those business analysis skills, if you develop them, whether or not you end up with a title that is business analyst, or you end up with a title that sounds like implementation specialist or product consultant, you will still benefit from having those skills. So you know, go learn some business analysis skills. So we've got a couple of questions on chapters. So let me just explain real quickly how those chapters work. When you become an IIBA member, you automatically become a member of a chapter that's local to you. You don't have to pay anything extra for that. We find the closest chapter, and then we let them know that you're brand new, so that they can reach out to you and invite you to events. But really, when you become a member of, you become a member of every chapter, quite honestly. And so many of our chapters do virtual events now that, heck, you can listen in on something from our Bay Area in San Francisco, their chapter, all the way to our chapters in Australia. There's lots of good stuff that's going on, and so your IIBA membership gives you access to all of that. Okay, so let's see here, more questions. Um, so there's one, currently doing an internship as a BA. Could you explain the steps of the career? We haven't already answered this one. I've heard first, you go down, followed by bit. Okay, so we did kind of talk about that job life cycle. How to prove the experience when applying for the IIBA certification. I think there's a template where you can collect that. You're on your honor. However, you could be selected to be audited. That's probably not the correct set of steps. Scott, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, when you go through the application process, there is an online system where you document your experience in the different knowledge areas. So there is a whole online process to walk you through. There is a guide. So if you want to look at all the steps involved, look at the certification page, and in there you'll find a guide. I'm not using the right term,
It's
but
a
there
handbook.
is, yes, a handbook. Thank you. The handbook will give you details of overall what's required and give you some prerequisite understanding before going through the application process. But we do have a system to document all this.
And for the CCBA and the CBAP, there are references that you've got to provide as well. So that would be another way that we're able to validate some of that experience. Okay, so let's see. Another question. I've been working in the banking sector for 15 years and have an MBA. Just got certified as a Scrum Master and a product owner. How do I transition effectively into the BA role? We've had a lot of conversation internally about product owners and BAs. In fact, we've got a whole certification for it, the product ownership analysis. Um, and actually today, in just like maybe 2 hours, we are going to have a talk that will, I think, answer this question more specifically, because I think that product owner and the BA role, they work together when there are two different people doing it, or that can be the same person, because typically, while our product owners might have a lot of that subject matter expertise and understand priorities and all of that, what they generally don't have is the time to do it. I think on most of the agile projects I've ever been on where there's a product owner, we have pulled that person from their day job, and so they're doing both roles. And so having that BA skill set and being able to do some of that work for them, I think, can make for a really good relationship. So I think that's how you can transition into that, is by being a really good, strong product owner that understands business analysis.
Yeah, and I've just keyed in on that word transition. So if you're working in an organization today and you want to get into business analysis, the easiest, probably most effective, efficient way to do that would be stay within your organization and start working on a project. So rather than trying to go to another organization to go into a new role in business analysis, work within your existing organization where you have a reputation, you know the people, and that way you can see if you can get on a project somewhere to help them out as a subject matter expert, which would then, as Susan's described before, lead into the potential of being a business analysis professional.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because I think sometimes when we get these certifications, we feel like we've got to leave and go someplace else. Um, But generally, especially in this job market right now, there is high demand for business analysis professionals. If you already come with reputation and skill set and knowledge of the domain, I think that can be a very easy sell if you want to work or if you want to add those responsibilities to the work that you're already doing. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, this
Well,
next
just a
question.
time check, Susan. We're about
Yeah.
30 minutes in. So why don't we
Ooh,
grab one or two more questions?
yeah,
This time's flown by.
I know because it's such a hot topic. Let's see. Here, I'll pick this next one. Um, Is Lean Six Sigma a good certification to get with ECBA and the CAPM, which is the mid-level project management certification with a degree in business, not just to get into business analysis field, but would they complement each other? I I don't have a whole lot of experience with Lean Six Sigma, um, but my sense is given this given these certifications and knowledge, you might actually think about a business facing role as a business analysis professional, because it seems like those are the skill sets that you probably have in that. What do you think?
Yeah, I have worked with people that have green belts, black belts, very process focused. It is part of what business analysis professionals do, not to that extent. But for example, I was running a workshop just before this that Susan was participating in. We did some process design work. Processes are a key part of business analysis. And I love doing swim lane diagrams because it shows the different roles and what things need to get done in what order. And I find it's a really good way to get a group of people on the same page and agreeing with, oh yeah, that's the way this works, or no, it doesn't. We need to tweak it this way. So process design, if you've got that Six Sigma black belt, yeah, that's an awesome skill set to have as a business analysis professional.
Yeah. And we didn't talk a lot about it this time, but business analysis professionals are not just technology focused. And we've got a specialization diagram out there. There are some that do user experience and in product management and stuff like that. But there are a lot of them that are business focused and they're doing cybersecurity and business intelligence and data analytics. So don't think that the BA role means that you have to know technology. If you have a good skill set in understanding how your business runs and and how to talk to people, you might be a better fit on the business facing side of that role.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll leave another one right here for you to help you in your business analysis career. If you haven't subscribed to the IIBA YouTube channel yet, you can click over here and click on the bell icon to get notified every time we publish a brand new video.